I'm going to start the recording. Hey, folks, this meeting is recorded. Your video and audio contributions may be included in our Toastmasters marketing because we want to celebrate how fabulous you are. So gavel the meeting to order by knocking on wood. And let me introduce our president for the 2022, that's where we are, isn't it? 2022, 22, 23 year, Dr. Andrew Byrne.
Well, welcome to everyone. It's exciting. We are in our 5th year in this club, thanks to David's initiative and vision. So we're beginning to enter our 6th year. We started March 1st of 2017. So we're moving forward and bringing on new and innovative things as we go ahead. David is our new Vice President of Education, and working together with the team of the base camp meaning the 3 people, the President, the Vice President of Education, and the Secretary, all help in making sure that our educational awards are put in on time. And David coordinates requests for the meeting as we go week to week. So I thank David for doing that role this year and the collaboration that we'll do together. At this point in time, I turn it over to David is the Toastmaster today, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Turn it over
I should have added that to my on-screen title here. I'll do that momentarily.
Okay. And,
so
and
I'm
just,
not
just as an aside, David, just last week, Zoom added the ability to do what's called lower thirds. So instead of having your name disappear the way we have it set up right now, if you have lower thirds, those names and identifications stay permanent when you use lower thirds.
okay. Well, we can, sounds like something to experiment with, but maybe not tonight. As your Toastmaster of the day, it is my job to run an on-time and well-organized meeting, and I will do my best. We are meeting with somewhat abbreviated crew this evening because of the July 4th holiday in the US. Of course, my international members said, no, you can't cancel it just because of some US holiday. We're an international club. But where are those people? Where are they indeed? But it doesn't matter. The people who are here are fabulous people, and that is what is important. So as Toastmaster today, is my job to introduce the other roles. And so I thank people for stepping up at the last minute. We're going to run a little bit simplified agenda. So that means that we're not going to have a grammarian unless our grammarian shows up, which he may not. But Dr. Byrne, you stepped forward to be our timer for this evening. Can you tell us what the timer, actually our grammarian just rolled in. Can you tell us what the timer does in this club and how you will do your role?
The timer is the individual responsible for keeping track of the time for presentations, impromptu speaking, and evaluations. Each of those roles have specific times, defined times for each of those activities. The speaker role of a icebreaker is 4 to 6 minutes. You reach threshold at 4 minutes and you end at 6 minutes. A typical speech would have 5 to 7 minutes, and you'll see my flashing lights as I go through those different roles. So for example, you'll see a green when you have threshold met, you'll see yellow halfway, and you'll see red at the ending. Next,
All right. Thank you, Dr. Byrne. We do have a grammarian this evening. And we don't have an eye counter, so I guess you can sort of be the eye counter along the way as part of grammarian duties. Lou Brown, can you tell us how you will be doing your evening duties for this evening?
Certainly, as a Marian, I will be listening for clutch words, crutch words, double start words, all of those unnecessary words, filler words that we sometimes interject in our speaking. And I'll also look for some colorful use of phrases and words and sentences and all that wonderful thing, and perhaps incorrect usage, though. As a statistics major, it sometimes is difficult for me to do that, but I will do my best and provide a report at the end of the meeting. I don't have a word of the day. Does anyone have a word of the day?
Well, we do have one on the agenda. It is interdependence.
Ooh.
So the theme of the day is independence, because it's Independence Day in the United States, but interdependence. Actually, can you define interdependence? Do you know what interdependence means?
Sounds like dependence within, or is it
Yeah.
across? That'd be
Being
intra-dependent,
mutually
so interdependence.
dependent on each other.
Ah,
So it is sort of the opposite, but it's also a positive word for the most
okay.
part.
I'll also be listening for folks who use that word.
All right. Interdependence or interdependent would be the quality of being mutually dependent on other things.
Oh, one last thing. I will not be
Yes, sir.
providing a spiffy graph and charts as sometimes the counters do, because I don't know how to do that yet. I don't have the Excel file.
Okay, that's just fine. Let's see. And that, I think in this simplified agenda format, Lou, you're really our timer and our grammarian with the counter kind of mixed in are going to be our only roles for this evening. So we will move right ahead to our formal speeches. Christine is visiting us from a club that does formal speeches later in the meeting. They do table topics first and then they do speeches, but every club is different. They remix the elements in a slightly different way. And this club, for whatever reason, has decided that it will do the speeches up front. And so our first speaker for the evening, Antoinette Trim, is giving a speech she calls Communicating with My Hands. This is from Visionary Communicator Level 1, Mastering Fundamentals. She's doing an icebreaker, actually. And the speech introduction is, one cannot reach perfection just by standing on the sidelines. We must make every effort to become active participants. Antoinette writes, I love being a Toastmaster because it provides you with countless opportunities to hone your skills in public speaking and leadership. Antoinette Trim for 4 to 6 minutes.
Thank you, Toastmaster today and my fellow Toastmasters. How many of you ever started a program or project with the end in mind, but it did not turn out to be what you expected, but still you have no regrets because you do like the end product? One of the many reasons why I joined Tobago Autism Society, I realized that many of the children of those parents were not only autistic, but they were also hearing impaired. I remembered one particular instance where one of the children was rejected from secondary school because their verbal skills were poorly developed. And I wanted to make a difference in the lives of those children, at least some of them. I began that by enrolling in an online class with Caribbean Sign Language Center, which is a local school that teaches sign language. They more or less teach American Sign Language and Trinidad and Tobago Sign Language. In the process, I understood that in order to become more proficient in sign, we must interact with the children. And of course, my work schedule did not meet the timetable of the normal school curriculum. However, there is a saying, a winner never quits, and a quitter never wins. And so I looked at various avenues, I meditated, I also did some research, not really research in psychology though. As I said before, I was doing my master's in psychology when I joined the Tobago Autism Society. I did some research on how can I use my sign language skills. And seeing that I attend church regularly, I decided to, why not engage myself in signing songs as a special at church. In religious settings, there are many gifts. Some have the gift of singing, which I don't have. I don't think I have enough vocal variety. Some have the gift of playing an instrument. I started some years ago playing an instrument. As a matter of fact, I have at least up to grade 5 in music and also keyboard, practical music. And some people have the gift of dancing. I remember one of the first songs I did in signing for that song at church was "Oh Holy Night." And indeed, what a night indeed. My legs, I was nervous. I was actually, my fingers on my hands were even shaking because my stomach felt so queasy, but I pushed through with God's help. If I must say so myself, it was well received. As a matter of fact, one of my, not one, but one or two of the people who were at church, Antoinette, you did very well, and I'm so much pleased. Not long after, the Caribbean Sign Language Center, the school that I spoke to you about already, offered another program, Worship in Sign. And of course, I hurriedly signed up for that program. And two things I learned whilst I was doing that program, in that signs, when you're signing in songs, signs must be exaggerated. For example, if I'm speaking one-on-one with somebody, or there's two of us, I'm doing sign language and the word is glory, I'll just do glory like this. But for songs, glory, glory. And you'd notice that my body language and the facial expressions are in sync. Perhaps some people may be saying, look at the great amount of effort Antoinette is putting into learning sign language, which was really for the hearing impaired. But in the end, it was for hearing people. What does that mean? The answer is, I enjoy doing it. It keeps me occupied. And also a skill that I'm eager to teach my fellow friends and also young people in the church. And really believe it is one way of improving your memory skills. Back to you, Toastmaster of the Day.
All right. Thank you, Antoinette. Pardon me. Trying to navigate my way between different windows. Our second speaker for the evening is Graham Cairns. His speech, "The Nation's Soul, from Persuasive Influence, Level 1, Increasing Knowledge, Researching and Presenting." Graham today is looking at a pivotal moment in America's modern history and considering the need for personal moral coverage. Graham Cairns.
Mr. Toastmaster, Song Tan in the Vietnamese province of Quang Ngai is hot and sticky. An overbearing humidity hangs over the region. But in the Goldilocks weather of March, when it's not too wet and not too dry and not too hot and not too cold, the last few weeks before the start of monsoon season, there are blue skies and clear conditions. It's on such a bright, clear March day, March 16 to be exact, in 1968, that Chief Warrant Officer Hugh Thompson was flying a reconnaissance patrol as the pilot of a US Army helicopter over Pinkville. That was the name given to a region of central Vietnam that would soon become famous, or perhaps infamous is a better term. Warrant Officer Thompson and his crew were there to support the soldiers of Charlie Company as they swept through what they had been told was a hotbed of enemy insurgency in the Vietnam War. But as the pilot and his crew flew over the hamlet of Son Mai, they saw something they could not believe. American soldiers were shooting indiscriminately at unarmed Vietnamese civilians, old men and women and children and babies. And so Warrant Officer Thompson did something unbelievably brave. He landed the chopper between the US soldiers and their fleeing victims, and he rescued dozens of civilians. Another US airman, Glenn Andriotta, from another helicopter, climbed into a ditch full of bodies to rescue a young boy who was covered with the blood of his family, of his neighbors. And the chopper pilots and crew did something unheard of. They formed a line and they threatened to shoot their own comrades unless the Charlie Company soldiers stood down. The officer in charge of Charlie Company, Lieutenant William Kelly, told them to move, told them that it was none of their business, told them that the soldiers had every right to take whatever action they felt to treat the Vietnamese as enemies, even if they were just babies. But the chopper crews refused. They stood their ground and said, "This shall not continue." And after flying some of the innocent civilians to safety, Hugh Thompson pleaded with his superiors to order Lieutenant Kelly and the soldiers of Charlie Company to cease fire, which they did, and they launched an investigation. But almost immediately, the cover-up began. It was more than 2 years before what happened at the sub-hamlet of My Lai came out. And even then, there was only one conviction, that of William Kelly, which resulted in effectively just 4 years of house arrest for the lieutenant. Chief Warrant Officer Hugh Thompson continued to fly recon missions for the US Army, missions which, by the way, became increasingly dangerous. It was almost as if somebody wanted him to be placed in danger. In fact, he was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross for bravery in rescuing the civilians in the face of hostile fire, but he threw that medal away, arguing that the hostile fire was in fact coming from his own side. And Glenn Andriotta, the SPC-4 who'd pulled that boy from the ditch where he lay, well, he was killed in action just a few weeks after the massacre at My Lai, which claimed literally hundreds of innocent lives. But eventually, Andriotta and Thompson and all of the brave aircrew who placed themselves between their colleagues and the Vietnamese civilians, they were all awarded the Soldier's Medal for distinguished heroism not involving conflict with an enemy. So what prompted Thompson and Andriotta and later whistleblower Ron Rittenauer, who was the one who brought that story to light, what prompted them to break with the code of silence which the military imposes? Why did they place themselves between their perceived enemies and their own soldiers? Because they believed in the cause that they were fighting for, and they believed in their nation. But they also believed, as Winston Churchill once said, a nation without a conscience is a nation without a soul, and a nation without a soul is a nation that cannot live. It's interesting that a nation which could create William Kelly and Charlie Company, a group of murderous thugs that saw all Vietnamese as Viet Cong, a group that regularly gang-raped Vietnamese women while on search and destroy missions, a group that slaughtered up to 700 Vietnamese women and children in just 4 hours, A nation that could create them could also create Hugh Thompson and Glenn Andriotta and Ron Ridenour and tens of thousands of other Americans, ordinary and extraordinary, who stand up for what's right, even at significant personal cost. Now, I very much doubt that you and I, fellow Toastmasters and guests, are ever going to face the same sort of excruciatingly dangerous decisions that Hugh Thompson and Glenn Andriotta faced. But we do, my friends and fellows, face decisions almost daily where the right thing and the sensible thing come into conflict. So which do you choose? I know we're all advised, pick your battles, don't sweat the small stuff. But I suggest we do need to think deeply about what is the line that we will not cross. What is the point where we say this and no more? What do we need to ensure that our nations, what do we need to ensure ourselves have a soul? Perhaps there's an easy way to decide. When you face a decision, imagine it's a hot, bright March morning and you have to make a decision. Do you want to be remembered as William Kelly and Charlie Company, or do you want to be remembered as Hugh Thompson and his aircrew? I think I know, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Graham. You give me shivers, Graham. Let me ask our timer. How did our two speakers do on staying within their time limits?
They both met their criteria for speaking, and the specific times are now posting.
Okay. All right. And our vote counter, Donna Knight, we drafted you as vote counter. Do you want private message or are you doing it some other way?
Private message with a small group will do well.
Okay. So please send a private message. So you click on the box in the chat box, you change it from everyone to Donna Knight and send her your votes, please. With that, it's time to move on to our table topics portion of the meeting, which will be led by Toru Maruyama.
Yes.
All right, help me. Okay. I muted you at some point, but you obviously have discovered the unmute button. And so, Toru, it's your show for the next few minutes.
All right. Thank you very much for your introduction. I'm very glad that you spoke my pronunciation name right. My name is Toru Maruyama. It's a very difficult name, but I want you to remember. So let's practice impromptu speech. But I think everybody has a role. So
yeah, everybody is fair game. And in fact, Antoinette volunteered that you would like to take part in the table topics in addition to being a speaker. So Antoinette, you have a target on your.
Okay. My first question is, what do you want to learn most in the online presenters Toastmasters Club? And this question goes to Donna Wright. I know that you must be a veteran speaker, but there is still room to grow for you. So what do you want to learn most in this club? Thank you.
Mentoring someone is one of the most challenging things to do. When you're at work, working with someone, you're junior, you can always refer, you can always use that checklist that the company gives to you. You can always go through and say to the person, this is what needs to be done. They have their rules or their guidelines for mentorship, and you can always use that. But one of my proteges years ago told me something, and I firmly believe it. If you want to know how good of a leader or a mentor you are, serve in a voluntary organization, because that is where you will be stretched. And believe me, especially if you've been vice president education, you will be stretched. I want to continue to learn to be the kind of leader that I need to be. I know that the capitalistic society asks for, requires a different kind of leader. But as Toastmaster Graham said in his speech and referred to, where will your soul be at the end of all of this? So I want to be the kind of leader that even if I'm not officially in a post, people will come. I want to be the kind of mentor that it is not only for today that he or she speaks, it will be for years later. Yesterday, one of my proteges, in fact, she was not officially my protege, was a guest speaker. And right up to the 9th hour, I was working with her and I was so proud. And this started years ago. So what would I like to learn is how can I be better? How can I reach more people? And how can I, at the end of it, no matter what happens, make it all about the other person and not really about me? So serving in a voluntary organization, I am being stretched. I will stay here and take a little bit more stretching. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Yeah, thank you very much for your fascinating speech. I learned what you want to do in this club, and I wish you could do it. Thank you. And next question, among the various celebration ceremonies which you had so far, what was the most impressive one? Whatever the celebration, whatever the ceremonies, which do you think you had so far? What was the most impressive one? And this question goes to Louis Brown. Can you tell me your experience about the ceremony?
Sure, Mr. Topics Master, although I'm not completely clear if you mean from all of the July 4th celebrations, which do I prefer, or from celebrations in general?
Celebration in general, yep.
Oh, very good. Okay. And yeah, quite honestly, I could have taken it in either direction, couldn't I, as part of table topics? Interestingly, as we've gone through the pandemic and have come out of the pandemic, all of the holidays and celebrations and everything that's going on with holidays in general have been very chaotic and all over the place. Couple that with the fact that I don't work in corporate America anymore, so I don't get to be excited about a day off of work that may be coming up, which most of the time here in the US is on a Monday. The days just kind of blend. Couple that, well, now we're up to the third item, is I'm getting too old for all of this celebration stuff, especially where I live here in Chicago. And I have to say, it's for a bad reason, not so much a good reason. It's just a lot of crime and stuff going on lately, as some of you may have heard in the news today. That in and of itself doesn't make me so afraid. I'm not afraid to go out there. But at night, I just choose to not be out at night with the crowds. I can see, say, the July 4th fireworks from my balcony. I am close enough to a lot of action where I can actually just see things like that. And within the building I live in, we do have a lot of celebrations for each holiday in the form of social gatherings. We have a social room here. They serve food, we play pool, we watch TV, we listen to music. It was actually quite fun. And again, if it was maybe 30 years ago, I probably would be out in the street partying and getting drunk and being the foolish Gen Z or millennial type of person that they are today. All of that foolishness, but now I enjoy my celebrations, just kind of relaxing and looking at other people making fools of themselves. Back to you, Mr. Topics Master.
Thank you very much for your very interesting analysis of ceremony. I remember I've got seen fireworks in Manhattan when I was in the States in the July 4th celebration. Thank you very much. My third question was, what was the last time you cried? Was it because you were sad or because you were happy? Please tell me your story. What was the last time you cried? And this question goes to Toastmaster Jody, Laidlaw.
I cry for everything. I even had to write a disclaimer. No, 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 it's happy tears. It's happy tears. I cry for everything because I've never been able to control my emotions. I think one of the things why I ended up here, and it makes me happy that I did not destroy it when I got the chance to, was that I feel things so completely and totally. My exuberance is complete and total. My devastation is complete and total. When I said, yes, I would love to help with your convention, I didn't know it would eventually take me here to online presenters. And I'm happy that I feel my emotions so totally. Just so you know, David, when I was typing it, I looked like this. You never saw it, but this was what I look like. I'm gonna help, I'm gonna do it, it's gonna be awesome. So in the same way that I feel happiness and exuberance and everything so fully, when the tears come, either happy tears or sad tears, I feel them in the same way. Fortunately, recently though, all my tears have been happy tears. Everything has just been serendipitously working out after such a long time of things just not falling into place. And I learned that when you follow your passions and you follow those emotions, after all, they are energy in motion, and not block them. Oh, you're happy, you're not supposed to cry. If you cry, people are gonna think that you're sad or they're hurting you. No, they would see that huge smile as they run down the cheeks going, I felt this so deeply. It touched me so personally. There was nothing I could do except allow that to just flow. And in sharing that, it opens a conversation. And I'm a Toastmaster, and the one reason why we're all here is that we love to. I coined this word, conversate. We come to talk. We love to talk, and that is why we're here. So the last time may be happy tears, but all tears are good tears because emotion is just energy in motion. Back to you, our table topics master.
Thank you for your wonderful speech. Happy tears. Maybe it fits your character. And still, do we have enough time, David?
You have plenty of time to do at least 2 or 3 or more.
Okay.
If not everybody.
Okay. All right. The next question was, what was the most wonderful birthday present you have got in your life so far? What was the most wonderful birthday present you've got in your life? And this question goes to Toastmaster Antoinette Trim.
Thank you, Toastmaster, for that question to me. Firstly, I love birthdays. I love to celebrate my birthday. I remember growing up in Grenada, my father will make all the birthday celebrations for me, being the only child. And therefore, he will invite all my friends and we all come and play together and so on. So that was a very good gift for me. I look forward to it for many, many years. And at the age of 21, I had a very big celebration. This time, though, it was in Trinidad because I moved from Grenada to Trinidad. And of course, being a young person, you'd invite all your friends and you have big bird cutting up the cake and so on. After age 21, I still celebrate my birthdays on a small scale. But to tell you the honest truth, my best birthday presents when my husband gave me money. Because I feel that I'm all grown to handle my money. Nobody have to buy watch and different things for me. I'm grown enough, I have enough sense. So I like money so that I can do whatever I want. So to me, my best birthday presents, money. Money makes the world go round. Back to you, Toastmaster, table topics master.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. Uh, next question. Can I ask you, Andrew? I will act as a timer. Okay. What is the best part of growing older?
The
What
best
is,
part the best part of growing older
yeah.
is the different opportunities that you have. When you're in grade school, you pretty much follow the rules of what's going on. You may be fortunate enough to do some after school activities, but as you're going along, past 16 in the United States, you have the opportunity that David's now experiencing of taking driver's ed and the following year be able to drive a car and leave the confines of your previous space because now you're driving a car and you can go places, do things, be with friends. So these are the things that you experience as you go forward. I think that everybody can reflect back over their life and see the differences that happen during the different periods of time. There are people that reach that age when they're dating. There are people that reach the age where they can go out with their friends to the movies. There are people that have experienced other kinds of activities that they are experiencing as they get older, including marriage and then starting the cycle all over again with children and things of that nature. I think we're all pretty excited about how your life changes and goes through different phases as you grow older. And I've been excited about all of them. Thank you, Tura.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, I sorry. Okay, the next question. I'm wondering, do you read newspapers? Because newspaper is dying industry, and it is sad for me, who was working for a newspaper as a reporter for more than 30 years. Why don't you read? Why don't read newspapers these days? And this question goes to who? David, do you some thoughts about it?
Sure. And I am a former newspaper reporter. I transitioned over into technology trade press a number of years ago, and now I'm working in more of a marketing role for a tech company. I feel tremendously guilty about not reading my local newspaper, not subscribing to my local newspaper. And we don't do it partly because, I don't know, I guess the delivery driver for the Miami Herald was nasty to my wife at some point in some way, and she got annoyed at him. And I think at some point I had a digital subscription to the Fort Lauderdale paper, the Sun Sentinel, for professional reasons or for some other reasons, but I've let it lapse. And so I dip into them periodically. I dip into them if they will allow me to read a certain number of free articles. So I still read them. I just don't pay for the actual reporters to make a living, including the Pulitzer Prize winning reporters. Votes are being, I think it's a US based honor, but it is for the best newspaper based reporting. And I don't know whether those people have actually been laid off, but if they haven't, they've seen, the reporter to the left of them and the reporter to the right of them also laid off. So yes, newspapers are struggling. I'll tell you that one of my post-newspaper jobs was writing for a publication called Internet World, which was published at the very dawn of the internet age, or the internet as something beyond an academic vehicle, the internet for commercial purposes. And so I always think that, here we were cheerleading for the rise of the web, which was the engine of destruction that was about to roll through publishing. So I have mixed feelings. There is more and better information available to all of us as readers than there ever has been before. And yet the willingness of people to pay for the reporters and the writers who create that great information is less than it's ever been before. And I've been on the wrong side of that equation as somebody who has worked in marketing and tried to go back to journalism and found it difficult to get back into journalism and still make what I consider to be a reasonable living. And so I feel tremendously guilty about not reading my local newspaper, almost as guilty as I feel about not seeing a green, yellow, or red light, because I don't know where I am in terms of my timing. And it seems like I must be over time by now, because I've been babbling for quite a long time about, okay. So I think I'm done. Whether or not I get a signal to say I'm done, there's a red light. I think I've run the red light by quite a bit, but thank you, Mr. Topics Master, for the question, and God bless journalism.
Thank you very much for your thoughts, insightful thoughts. I think newspaper in printed style will survive in some way or other, but not too much. That is the reality. Thank you. We still have time?
Why don't you do one more?
All right. The last question I want to raise is that maybe difficult, because the theme of today is independence. I'd like to ask, what is your most significant independence you had in your life of any kind? What is your most significant independence in your life? And this question goes to Andres Belenko. Can you do that?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Table Topics Master. It's easy to me. The feeling of being independent, one of the greatest feeling I ever had, was in the year of 2000, when I, newly graduated from the Ukrainian university, came to London. At that time, that was a clubbing capital of Europe, almost the world, and me, just newly graduate with big eyes, looking all the club scene, being able to work and provide for myself for the very first time, even though the nature of the work I was involved was construction, nothing to do with my economics degree. but I was independent. First time in my life from my parents. I could live on what I was making and working on. And later on, when I met my wife to be again, I made a decision to marry her independently without anybody else. So number of things happened in my life in the year of 2000s, and the taste of being young, professional, independent, making those stupid mistakes and getting drunk with my mates, but again, away from my parents' nest. That was the feeling. When you have wings behind your back, you think, right, I left the nest, I'm gonna fly. Until one day, I just ring up the mom and mom tells me off. And then the other day, my dad gives me more advice. And so where are all the wings of independence? They're always here and here. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you very much. Celebration for your independence. But you still need interdependence with your parents, right? Thank you. That's all. Can we have? Can I have timeout reports? And I'd like to say that Andrew's table topics lasted 1 minute and 30 seconds, so it is qualified. So what about others?
All people are within time.
All right.
Okay, thank you. So
We get a recap of the names of the folks that folks can vote for. You have
Yes.
that, Andy?
Yes, if you look in the chat, I put down people's timing. If you look, my timing 1:34 is listed at 8:23, and then there are others listed around 8:21. So Donna, Lou, Joni, Antoinette, followed by myself.
Please send a private chat message to our vote counter, Donna Knight. She's actually listed under the, in the chat window, she's listed under V for vote counter. So send her a note with your vote. And I am feeling tremendously interdependent with all the other people who are supporting us this evening. Taru did a great job with the table topics mastery, as well as did the people who stepped up to the table topics challenge along the way.
thank you very much.
Now I'm going to act as general evaluator for lack of a person to have signed up for that role in advance. And I will introduce our evaluators for this evening, starting with evaluator number 1. Andrei Smolenko will be evaluating Antoinette's speech. Andrei.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator, fellow line presenters, most importantly, Antoinette. Congratulations, you've done another icebreaker. And what an amazing, powerful, really insightful icebreaker it was. The purpose of your speech was to give introduction to the club of the whole your life or a one particular area of your life. And I could feel your energy. I could feel your passion. And I could feel and I could see your kindness with which you delivered your speech. What I've learned that you are quite strong in psychology, that you really value God's words, and you involved with Tobago Autism Society. And the really, really grabbing attention title of your speech, Communicating with My Hands, really drew my attention. Throughout your speech, you told the story about what you did, what you did, helping autistic children communicate using the hand language as well, changes their life. Really strong points, quite clear delivery. It was a strong opening. Throughout the speech, I could see the pattern and the conclusion. The few recommendations I would like to make perhaps could make your next speech better. One is when we do visual communication, is communicating especially with hands. As you can see on this little photo, there was not that many hands that we could see. Would like to see them more, especially with the sign language, something like that. I think recommendation number 2, what a powerful quote you use. Winners never quit, quitters never win. Perhaps you could use this powerful quote throughout your speech as a red thread a number of times. Maybe you could start with the quote, mention in the middle, and give the powerful conclusion to your speech. Overall, taking into account those 2 minor little points that I'm sure you can polish in your next speeches, I was really pleased to know your dedication to helping those autistic children, your dedication to Toastmasters, and I wish you all a pleasant journey. Well done, Antoinette.
All right. Thank you very much, Andre. Our second evaluator is my friend Christine Campbell, who was generous enough to not only join us on this evening, but to step up and be an evaluator at a meeting where we were a little bit shorthanded. So I don't know whether you're seeing us at our best, Christine, but I think in a lot of ways, juggling to make a meeting work when things may not be going perfectly is one of the most valuable skills that we learn in Toastmasters. But Christine, welcome to the stage. Please give us your evaluation of Toastmaster Grand Cairns.
Thank you very much, General Evaluator. Graham, this tore me apart. One side was for the hero. The other side was in awe of reality. We never know what's really behind the scenes when something's wiped out, such as the Hitler movement, all of these other leaders. Now, I would have thought never this would have happened, not with us. Okay, we wouldn't do that. But yet, in the early 80s, I was only in my 20s. And I was with salespeople for a company, and there was a pilot there that was in the Vietnam War. This pilot said, I can't sleep at night still because of the things we had to do. You did research, incredible research, Graham. Gives me chills down my back. I've asked my husband many times, how can anybody who has love in their heart, peace in their soul, goodwill to all men, to be asked to point that trigger right at a human flesh, or to stab, or to whatever, to massacre such a lovely human spirit and body of someone's child? How can that ever happen? So you have pointed out so much reality, but yet you were so creative in getting us to challenge ourselves to stand up for the hero. Are we going to be the hero today in any type of situation to move forth and stand for what's right? Now, when it is under an officer's premises, are you debunked and condemned forever for not pulling that trigger? Are you going to be like Thompson in the middle saying, we're going to save these no matter what? It is worth the fight, worth to know, to tell your kids, I stood up for the right. And later, they received the award, but they didn't do it for that. They did it for the heart and soul that they've always kept. Now, your wording is fabulous. You're a poet, you're a journalist, you have to be, with the hearing you for the first time. When you're saying Goldilocks weather in March, poetry throughout your entire presentation. You had me captured. I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm in horror and I'm in love with the challenge in our hearts. It brought breath into me one more time to say, I'm going to do my best to stand up for what's right. And I encourage all of you to take his heed with this evaluation, very, very incredible presentation, to do the same too. I do not see anything that you need to improve on. You were fabulous. I am so felt and so lucky to be your evaluator. And I hope I've even done you justice. I hope, because you are deserving of much. Okay, back to you.
Right. Thank you, Christine. May we have a timer's report on the evaluations, please? See, I see them in the chat.
First evaluation was under 2 minutes by Andre, and Christine went overtime at 2:49.
Well, let's make an executive decision and vote on them anyways. If one was under and one was over, then it kind of evens out. Might as well vote. So please send a vote to Donna Knight about who did their evaluation, whether they were brief, but a little bit too brief, or thorough, but a little bit too thorough. All right. My general evaluation of this meeting is that we stitched it together pretty well with a little bit of a skeleton crew. I thought actually we have time, and I think we do have time, that I might show you something that I got to do professionally using some of the skills that I've used and learned at Online Presenters. Some video that was captured via OBS Studio, which is a piece of software that I learned about years ago when we invited somebody who is an expert on Facebook and Facebook Live presentations to give a workshop for our club. OBS Studio is general software, and using this green screen back here, which is just sort of a spring-loaded piece of green fabric in the background. Let me just show you what I created, and just we can ask for maybe a little bit of informal feedback. So this is, let's see, wait a minute. I need to make sure I share the sound too.
How much time do you want me to put on the clock?
This is informal, so it should be just a minute, because this is Insights in a Minute, which is something that my employer has asked me to do from time to time. And so, welcome to Insights in a Minute, Remote Home Office Edition. I'm David Carr, Senior Insights Manager at SimilarWeb, and a remote home office worker for most of the past 30 years. Here's what we saw happen to traffic to the careers website of Airbnb on the day in late April when they announced a very liberal work from anywhere policy. Huge spike on one day, followed by a month of elevated traffic, up about 162% for the month of May, according to SimilarWeb estimates. There's much more detail available in the full report, which is published to the Insights blog on the SimilarWeb website. For example, I found it interesting that even though we've heard a lot about this in tech fields, it was actually remote marketing jobs where there was a big surge, particularly in April, but definitely up overall. I encourage you to dig into the details and tell us what you find interesting. So that's actually not the one that had the green screen effect, but anyways, my colleagues in the New York office actually have a studio available to them and a video professional to help them out. The video pros, video editing pros gave me a little bit of an assist with that one, but I mostly just did it out of my home office using skills that I've learned at Online Presenters. So thank you all for helping me have an excuse to develop those skills. With that, I think we're about ready to pretty much wrap up, I will ask our vote counter to give us the results of the voting, such as it was from this little group.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am, yes, stalling for 1 second to announce who our winners are. And for our best table topics, online presenters, both Joni, Laidlaw, there was a tie. For our, oh, my apologies, I got a little bit too quick with that. For our, hold on, let me get this one right. Back to the front, yes. There you are. For our best speaker, let me hear a round of applause for Graham Cairns. And our best evaluator, Andres Smolenko. Congratulations to all, Mr. Toastmaster of the Day.
All right. Thank you, Donna.
Sorry, what about table topics?
Oh, was there
Did we
I think
vote?
she-
First one to go, there was a tie, Toastmaster Laidlaw and Toastmaster Knight.
Okay.
That's why I was feeling if there was somebody else.
Yeah, so, in my club, the Toastmaster, the vote counter would have to break the tie, but these traditions definitely vary between clubs. And so this winds up.
Unfortunately, the vote counter was also a candidate.
That's
So
right.
that's why I
That's
couldn't.
right. That complicates things. That's right.
Yeah.
There's some interdependence there.
I mentioned the Miami Herald earlier. The Miami Herald humor writer Dave Barry says that the problem with traffic in Miami is that each driver drives according to the rules of his native country. And so that complicates things a bit. And that's kind of the way rules for how voting and a number of other things work and online presenters work within this club. But I think we're on schedule to wrap up a little bit early, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But is there anybody else who has business that they want to bring before the club? Any announcements to make or anything that I forgot to call on a functionary?
Lou has his hands up. Both
Oh,
of them.
Lou, grammarian and counter. Well, what were our sins and what were our virtues tonight, Mr. Counter grammarian?
Actually, we did very well in terms of the counter piece. We have a couple of the common sentence starting words and, but, and so, and a few uhs and ums. So quite frankly, everyone did a very good job. They weren't so distracting that they were noteworthy. There was a lot of great usage of colorful phraseology. Graham, you just had so much sprinkled throughout your speech, and Christine caught the one Goldilocks weather in March. I had that as well in your Winston Churchill quote. Joni with happy tears. I also heard a couple of cool words that maybe could be future words of the day for us. Enuberance and serendipitous. I hope I got those right. David with the web being the engine of destruction. Couldn't be more accurate on that one, huh? Andre with when you have wings behind your back, followed by like leaving the nest. That was very visual. Antoinette, I really liked when you signed Glory, Glory. It just came across, I could feel when you did not say it. I'm not sure how to, you said it, but you signed it. So wonderful use of non-verbal language. Interdependence was said by Toru, by David, Graham in the chat, and myself just at the buzzer. So, back to you.
All right, thank you, Lou. All right, I think we're ready to wrap up. I'm gonna, let's see, actually, I should turn it back to our president and he'll tell me when the official meeting is over.
Well, the official meeting is over, but we should at least spend some of the last 10